In the beginning, God created heaven and earth. And the earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And God saw the light, that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. But why create the earth? Why create the heavens? It's part of God's ultimate plan, what he's been building up to. The earth, the heavens, humans, animals, plants, all in service of creating one thing, one organism, the second coming of Christ. A man who would change the world forever. And that man is Nicolas Cage.
My feelings on Nick Cage are weird. Because on one hand, he's a really great actor. And he's given many great performances before, whether they're comedic or serious. He brings a lot of likability and heart and humor to characters he plays. And he's been in tons of great movies. By that same token, in other stuff, he's just fucking wretched.
Oh, no, not the beast! Not the beast! Ah! Oh, my eyes! My eyes! Ah! Ah!
I mean, the guy's a legend. There's no denying it. Nicolas Cage is a legend. So why is Nicolas Cage in so many bad movies now? There has to be a reason, right? Because you got a guy who's been nominated for Oscars. He's been in great movies. He's worked with some of the best directors in Hollywood. He's been the leading role in huge franchises like Ghost Rider. He's a national treasure, dude.
I'm gonna steal the Declaration of Independence.
We gotta steal the Declaration of Independence.
I'm gonna kidnap the President of the United States.
We have to steal the President of the United States. So why is this guy in straight-to-video movies now? You know that old saying? You either die a hero, or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain. Nicolas Cage has not become the villain, he's just become a fucking hack. When you're an old actor, you should just retire and stop being in movies, you know? But Nicolas Cage's issue is that he spent a fuck ton of money. He owes the IRS $6.3 million in property taxes. He used to own 15 houses. One of them was a $25 million waterfront home in Newport Beach, California. He had a $15.7 million countryside estate in Newport, Rhode Island. $8.5 million property in Las Vegas. $8.4 million mansion in New Orleans. 2 castles in Europe. One costed $10 million and the other one cost $2.3 million. He bought a $3 million deserted island in the Bahamas. He has a 9-foot tall burial tomb. A $450,000 Lamborghini. $150,000 on an octopus. $150,000 more on the first Superman comic. $276,000 on a 7-million-year-old dinosaur skull. I want to feel bad for the guy, I really do. But my god, he blew $150 million on a bunch of shit. He was just stupid with his money, and because of that, he has to basically take every role that is offered to him. So this is our first ever Nic-Cage-Athon. That's what I'm gonna call it, a Nic-Cage-Athon, where we go through just a bunch of movies Nick Cage has been in recently. I'm gonna narrow it down to the past 2 years. How much you want to bet all of these movies are on Netflix? So we got Mom and Dad, The Humanity Bureau, Inconceivable, Vengeance, a Love Story. The terrible title. USS Indianapolis, Men of Courage. Dog Eat Dog. That's a good one. You gotta love the little trailers that Netflix puts together. What the fuck? Willem Dafoe is in this too, sadly. He's another guy. I love him, and I don't know what he's doing in this.
You feel like you got problems?
The thing about this movie is it's somewhat well shot. It's definitely got production value. That's not the issue. The issue is the story makes no sense. The characters are all thoroughly unlikable and not interesting. It does nothing but rip off other things that do what it's trying to do way better. For some reason, this part's in black and white, even though the rest of the movie isn't, and there's no reason why it's in black and white. They felt like it. Don't you love those transitions? I'm gonna have people walk in front of the frame! I'm Edgar Wright! No, you're not. You suck. This film was directed by Paul Schrader, writer of Taxi Driver and Raging Bull. Two of the greatest movies ever made were written by the man who directed this.
I know this guy in a very particular way. Well,
Dude, just stick to writing. One of the writers is the writer of Looking Glass, another Nick Cage movie.
Did you do it? Did you do it?
I like the dubstep music in the background.
Plays one or the other. You know how they do that.
oh yeah.
But this is where
Wow, nice framing. These guys saw Mr. Robot too. Who does Sam Esmail direct this?
he buys himself a house up in Rocky River. Big old gaudy thing. And then he's renovating that. You know that part of Cleveland?
Dude, I know all of Seatown better than anybody.
He's got a 300-pound pool he calls a bouncer.
What the fuck are they
Like
talking
7 people
about?
show. But not in the hood.
This scene has been going
So
on
he's
for
got
10 minutes.
4 or 5
I don't know
little
what the
junker
fuck
cars
is going
going
on. I don't know who these people are.
Gonna need 3.
So who you got? You got Diesel?
Yeah, and I've got...
No. No.
Who is this guy? Stop it. As competent as this movie is on certain levels, I'll give it certain levels. The editing is just horrid. On top of all that, it's a completely tone-deaf movie. And when you watch it, you're just going, is this supposed to be funny? Is this supposed to be like a serious crime film? I think it's going for a Tarantino kind of thing, that kind of tone. But it doesn't work at all because all the characters are just fucking just horribly unlikable and evil.
What's nice about Cage and Dafoe, and they both have this kind of charisma, which is they can play characters who you really do not like, but you love watching them play those characters.
It's like you didn't write any interesting characters. They all suck. They're all one-dimensional bastards. And it's just a bunch of scenes of them being crass and killing people.
So, Greco tells me you're a heavy guy. I'm not referring to your weight. I mean that apparently you are a gentleman of some power and influence.
Nicolas Cage in this is just terrible.
Do you think I look like Humphrey Bogart?
No.
Well, you see, that's interesting because I'm a big film buff. Bogart was the best, the king. When I was in the joint, there was a movie producer who was in there with
Bogart was the best, the king. We got a writer who really wants to be Tarantino, but he sucks. And then you got fucking Nicolas Cage who's trying to act like he's in a Tarantino movie. Like, this is his demo reel for Tarantino.
And I says to him, I says, do you think I look like Humphrey Bogart? And he says, well, yeah, you do, but a stretched out version of him.
You know what I says to him? I says...
I says to him, I says...
So they kill Willem Dafoe. It was just a scene that happened for no reason.
So Doc is gone? Yep. We're family.
We're family. What? So then after that, they go to a grocery store for some reason, and then the police come to arrest Nicolas Cage. Nicolas Cage goes Super Saiyan.
Fuck!
Great choreography.
Officer down! Officer down!
was that? What the hell was that? Anyone with half a brain would go, that looks bad, so let's cut that out of the movie. But no, they just kept it in. And we're zooming out of hearts, and we're zooming in on his face. Do you like the dramatic zooms? So when you want to zoom in, I'm just teaching the guy directing this movie how to direct a movie. When you want to zoom in on a guy, you do that, right? What shitty directors do is in post-production they go, I want to zoom there. So they just fucking digitally zoom in, and it looks like shit every time they do it. And then we hear Nicolas Cage talking in the background. Was he saying Samurai Cop?
Gotta be Samurai Cop.
Is that what he's saying? And then they didn't have the budget to show a car crash, so there's just a bunch of shots of just shit. Police officers somehow get Nicolas Cage out of jail and bring him to some random dump, and they handcuff him to the car and just drag him across the floor. So now we cut to a nice older couple just leaving a diner, and Nicolas Cage is... The last scene, he was being dragged by police officers, and now he's just... How'd he break free? Did you forget to shoot a scene? And Nicolas Cage is talking like a 50s gangster now. He just decided to switch accents in the middle of the movie.
You ever been inside, Reverend? In the joint?
Yes, sir.
Well, then you know. A guy who has a past, a guy who's made mistakes. They say they forgive you, but they never do. They're always looking at you, trying to catch you at something. All we want, heck, all anybody wants is justice.
What is he doing?
I was explaining to the officer, and she panicked. She thought I was resisting. Yeah, that's right, resisting, and my friend was just trying to save me. Hey, wait a minute. I know you know what's what. Yeah, you understand how this goes. And I can tell you're a good person, too. You care about your wife. Yeah, you're a good man. Well, all right, here's what. You're gonna make it out of this. Your wife's gonna be safe, and you're gonna be fine.
Seems like they didn't finish shooting the movie. That's what it feels like. Because it's just these disjointed pieces that don't really make any sense together.
I didn't want justice. I just wanted what I wanted. Just like everyone. And the rest of it was verbiage.
So they ran out of money and didn't get to finish the movie, so they had to cobble together something out of what they had. You know what the sad part is? That's the best movie out of the bunch. Yep, Netflix, what do you know? This movie had a budget of $40 million. $40 million.
Fire party to the bow!
Yeah, why does your shot have to be in focus? Being in focus is overrated. What, you want the audience to see what's going on? That's silly. From now on, this whole review is going to be filmed like this. And the money really shows, you know?
God help all of us when we face an enemy like that. In a few days is my birthday.
Nice jump cut. I feel like I'm watching Nicolas Cage's vlog or something. So this movie is apparently based on a true story, which just adds an extra level of offensiveness to it. Because you got like this true story of bravery and these courageous young men fighting to, you know, stay alive and go home to their family. And then you got this horribly made movie about it. Why are we still using this violin in Hollywood? Every movie I see, they use this.
Sometimes it's better to be respected than feared.
Was Nick Cage on Xanax this whole shoot?
Let them. The racks are hotter than Hades. Visibility?
Just this side of pores, sir. Got a fog rolling in.
Let's get through this weather as quickly as possible. Cease zigzagging until the fog clears. Full speed ahead.
Aye, aye.
Vanish.
He just looks tired.
Without me, you are worthless. You are my crew. And without you, I am worthless.
Now the Inception noise starts playing for some reason. Yeah, that really gets me into the mood of this World War II era, 1940s. Submarines don't just like, bloop! They don't pop out like that.
You sent the SOS out?
Yes, sir. Look at the needles. They're moving.
Good work. Carry on.
God, Nic Cage, you want some coffee? This hallway's supposed to be lopsided, but it clearly isn't. I cannot begin to explain how poorly executed this ship sinking scene is. You'd have to watch the whole thing for yourself to get the full experience out of it.
Citizen order!
Nic Cage is just standing there. Everyone else is grabbing onto the handrails like, oh my god, the ship is sinking. And they're like grabbing onto the side and like tilting over. Nic Cage just standing there like,
You know, I'm Nic Cage. I'm just here, you know.
So then Nic Cage falls off the ship sinks, just looks great, looks awesome. So Nic Cage is underwater, he swims back up, and he finds a raft, and he sits on the raft.
Hello? Hello?
Where is everybody?
Can anyone hear me?
It was the apocalypse 10 seconds ago. There were fucking people flying everywhere, there was fire, people were screaming and dying, and then Nic Cage comes up from underwater, and it's just silent. I've also never seen a lifeboat that looks like that. What kind of lifeboat has no bottom? What is that? I mean, I would like to assume that it is historically accurate, because I'd like to assume that the people making this movie know what they're doing, but the thing is, they clearly don't know what they're doing. So yeah, I'm sure there's some World War II buffs who watch me who can, send pics if anything like that exists. So Nic Cage is just paddling across the ocean, you know? And he comes across Tom Sizemore and another guy. Tom Sizemore is sitting there holding his leg.
The hell of a damn note.
This is the stupidest fucking thing I've ever seen in my entire
Keep it
life.
elevated.
Poor Tom Sizemore. How'd they pay him? Did they just pay him in morphine? As he's holding his fucking leg. Oh my god, and that's CGI. Holy shit. It looks like fucking JJ the jet plane. That's what it looks like.
The jet plane.
So for the next hour of the movie, it's just Nic Cage and a bunch of men in these lifeboats.
House specialty.
So they're finally rescued, and Nic Cage is like,
Get the men out of here.
Get my men out of the water.
so yeah, the movie's over, right? The guys got rescued. Nic Cage kept his men well fed and safe, and it gave him a little bit of hope, you know? But no, the movie's not over. It still goes on for another 50 minutes. So Nic Cage is brought to trial for not maneuvering correctly to avoid the torpedoes. They bring the Japanese man who was commanding the submarine that sunk Nic Cage's ship into the courtroom. After the trial, they meet up, and both of them have their Oscar moment.
I had a good idea of what we were carrying. I too did my duty. But as a man, I find no honor in it.
And as if it isn't bad enough, it's all out of focus. Every shot with him is out of focus.
We have learned to forgive each other as former adversaries. Perhaps one day, we can forgive ourselves as men.
Alright, next movie. Vengeance, a Love Story. On Netflix, it's just called Vengeance. Yeah, this is another one that's straight to Netflix. Of course it is. Why wouldn't it be? Based on the novel called Rape, a Love Story. Yeah, it doesn't really have a nice ring to it. I'm glad they went with Vengeance, a Love Story. So the last movie, Nic Cage looked bored. In this movie, he just looks confused. Whoa. Okay. See, now this is how you start a movie. This is exciting.
Fight it. Fight it. Look at me. Fight it.
So this girl talks in a bar with Nicolas Cage.
You're a good listener. We'll have to work on the talking part.
I'd like that.
Yeah, me too.
Come on, Nick.
Yeah? But the doctor cleared me for return, so...
Does he know where he is? He looks so confused as to what the movie is or what his character is. Oh my god, it's that little girl from 9 Lives. You remember 9 Lives? That little girl who acted like a thought?
Why did you share this? I wanted to show some boys. If they see you when you're vulnerable, they want to take care of you.
You sent this one to half our class.
That was a joke.
Even though she was like 10. She's the daughter of that girl Nick Cage met at the bar. So, you know, they go for a walk in the woods alone at night. You know, like you do. And they just happen to come across a bunch of drunk, redneck, drug addict, murdering rapists. So, you know, the drunk, redneck, drug addict, murdering rapists do their business. And then they leave them both alive. Like, what a bunch of amateurs. You know, you gotta finish the job if you're gonna do it. So the little girl breaks out. She goes to find Nicolas Cage, who just happens to be driving. Nick Cage uses his investigative skills to find out who did it, and then he captures them all. Nick Cage does some sick karate moves here. Wham! Bam! I don't know, I find, like, this little scene hilarious. Yet another confused close-up of Nicolas Cage. So the rednecks have these parents that are trying to get them out of jail by hiring this corrupt lawyer, you know? One of those sleazy old men, white-haired, in a suit.
That's against a $50,000 retainer fee for each boy.
We cannot do that.
Oh, yes, we can. And we will. Our house.
I worked 30 years to pay that off. It's all that we got.
Their poor acting, the flat cinematography, and the bad writing make this scene something to behold.
But they're charged with the same crime, so one story.
Jesus, Walt.
Well, it's like a woman has 2 babies. They ain't twice as much work. She does the same thing for both. That's why she's got 2 tits, right?
Can you believe this?
It's okay.
Sometimes I don't know how they film these scenes, and the director goes, yeah, that's good.
All those lies about my brothers? Bitch better watch her mouth. You and your whore mama better shut your faces. You hear me?
Nothing about this scene works.
Actually, me and my partner were coming from another call when we observed...
Actually, Detective, it's my partner and I.
This is not how any court operates. Then the defense attorney stands behind them and says the stupidest shit.
This was a confused and frightened child whose mother was so derelict as a parent to drag her to a drunken orgy of a 4th of July party.
Where did this come from now?
They did not rape or assault anybody. They are completely innocent of all charges.
No one would allow that. If anyone acted like that in a courtroom, they'd get kicked out immediately. Then Nick Cage sits there confused again in the courtroom, alone. And this is when Nick Cage decides to take the law into his own hands. There's one of the guys now. I wonder... Oh. He just shot him in the head. It's a little anticlimactic.
When you fired your weapon, it was purely self-defense, right?
Yes, sir.
3 years in the service. Desert Storm. A Purple Heart.
I love these ridiculous backstories they come up with. Nick Cage, 3 years of service. Desert Storm. Purple Heart. And that's only what the declassified documents will tell you. Nick Cage, he killed Osama bin Laden. By himself. On 9/11, he went into the towers and rescued hundreds of men, women, and children. You know, people say Adolf Hitler killed himself. Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that? I don't think you do. The truth is, Nicolas Cage killed him. Nicolas Cage shot him in the brain from 100 yards away with a pistol. That's right, Nicolas Cage was around during World War II. He defended Pearl Harbor. He was there for D-Day. Every character in the film Saving Private Ryan is actually based on Nick Cage. You thought a platoon of men defended that town? Nah, it was Nick Cage by himself. Okay, I'm gonna be quiet now because another scene is coming up of these people acting.
Jail is jail. Been there, done that. Ain't going back. We'll run. I swear to Christ. Canada. We'll go to Canada.
No, you won't. I put up my damn house.
Talk it over as a family.
We've decided. Tina McGuire's a lying whore. No one's gonna believe her. My boys are not pleading guilty to something they did not do.
That's it. Innocent people don't do time.
These people make Nicolas Cage look like Marlon Brando in his prime. Next scene is Nicolas Cage standing over a waterfall, very dramatically. You know, like you do. You ever just go to a waterfall and dramatically stare over it? I do that every Tuesday. Turns out this is where the drunk, redneck, drug addict, murdering rapists go to smoke crack. Drunk, redneck, drug addict, murdering rapists go to smoke crack. Is that not the most over-the-top sentence you've ever heard in your life? And then Nicolas Cage just shoots him off the waterfall. You get more great acting out of these people.
You want to know what happened? I'll tell you. It's that bitch, Tina McGuire. She's the one who drove my boys away! Get out of here!
Let's just fuck it.
They're out! They're out!
Well, there you have it.
The Nic-Cage-Athon's going on for a bit long, I gotta say. I didn't think it would take this long. So, I'm gonna cut off the Nic-Cage-Athon here, sadly. But here's the thing. We got plenty of Nick Cage movies to go through. So, I'm thinking of making this a series. That'd be pretty cool, right? So, we'll see how this turns out. I might never make another one. Who knows? So thank you for watching. Have a great night. And remember, we're all just tiny specks in the universe. All in service of Nick Cage.
Cinematography is the use of the science or art of motion picture photography by recording light or other electromagnetic radiation, either electronically by means of an image sensor, or chemically by means of a light-sensitive material such as film stock. Please type out cinematography. Very good. Now please say it out loud. Cinematography.
Cinematography.
Very good.
Hello, and welcome to the second installment of Nic-Cage-Athon. Nic-Cage-Athon is a series where we just watch Nicolas Cage movies and that's it.
Bogart was the best, the king.
I picked out 3 today. Before we start, let's issue some corrections from the previous Nicolas Cage episode. First of all, these lifeboats are real. World War II buffs, let me know. And secondly, I called Paul Schrader, dude, just stick to writing. One of the writers. Meanwhile, he just directed the best movie that came out this year, First Reformed. So, sincere apology. So when you want to zoom in, I'm just teaching the guy directing this movie how to direct a movie. When you want to, I'm not going to defend Dog Eat Dog at all, because Dog Eat Dog is awful. But I can't deny that the guy's a talented director. This is strike 1 for Ralphthemoviemaker. 3 strikes and I delete my channel. Hey listen, no one can be right all the time, you know? Except Alex Jones.
Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the Nick Cage fact of the day. Every Nick Cage-Athon, we're gonna have a Nick Cage fact of the day. Did you know his acting technique is called
Nouveau Shamanic?
I think Nicolas Cage is the creator of this acting technique, using normal human language as an exercise in futility.
So what I would do is I'd put on Afro-Caribbean paint, like a white and black paint, and black out my eyes so I look like this sort of Afro-Caribbean voodoo icon.
The guy is a meme generator.
And then I would sew in bits of Egyptian artifacts that were thousands of years old into my costume and gather some onyx.
He's an internet legend. You Google his name and you find pages upon pages of just memes. So let's start with this film. It's called Outcast. The film stars Hayden Christensen, best known for playing Anakin Skywalker in the Star Wars prequels.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
Top-notch acting there, Hayden. And Nicolas Cage, of course.
You're the outlaw they call the White Ghost?
I am the White Ghost. But no one calls me outlaw, child. Not to my face!
What a pairing. When I saw this poster, which is fucking awesome, by the way, look at this badass poster. When I saw this poster, I was like, I can't wait to see Hayden Christensen and Nicolas Cage just going around, chopping people's heads off. It'll be like a buddy road trip movie.
Blackguards are as thick as flies on a farting goat's ass because of you. You brought them here. How'd you find me, lad?
But that's not what we got at all. It's boring, it makes no sense, and Nicolas Cage is barely in it. And come on, that's why we're watching these, right?
And you may come down from this mountain, a free man.
Oh, I don't know. In my experience, those who climb to the top only ever remember they got there by their own
What's
effort.
with this rubber snake that Nicolas Cage is carrying around? Did he just bring that to set? Like, oh, this is my character thing. I idolized Nicolas Cage, so I got myself a rubber snake that I'm going to carry with me from now on. His name is Samuel the Snake. He's replacing Hendrix now. Fuck that little twerp.
There are women and children in there, Jacob. They won't be harmed. They will be harmed.
Nicolas Cage puts on this amazing, authentic accent.
Haven't you had enough of this killing for hypocrite priests? We do God's work. The blood we spill here is on our blades, our souls.
It's so good you can't even figure out what it's supposed to be.
You know, I swore an oath to your father.
The trailers and marketing make it look like Nicolas Cage is in it a lot. He's like top billing in the cast. The trailer makes it seem like Nick Cage is in it a lot. And then you watch the movie, and most of the movie is just a bunch of Asian actors and a white guy with an out-of-fashion haircut walking around the woods. And occasionally they get into an awful sword fight. So you want to know what really kills this movie? It's not Nicolas Cage. It's the cinematography. His wife! We're going all over the place. Like, look here. All this scene is a guy walks into a room and talks to the Emperor.
Lord Xing. Majesty, how many of your fellow generals will offer support to the boy?
This entire scene should be 5 different angles. Take a look at this scene from Game of Thrones. Very similar scene.
You've been holding the council meetings in the Tower of the Hand instead of the small council chamber.
I have, yes.
May I ask why?
Well, the Tower of the Hound is where I work.
There isn't excessive cutting. We cut to close-ups when it makes sense, when the scene is getting intense. We stay on one side of the room. And here we're like, we're on the right side now, and now we're on the left side, and now we're head on, and then we're back on the left side. It's like, what the hell is going on? The action is boring. You can't even make out what's happening. They usually do this in movies when either the actors don't know how to fight, or the choreography isn't good. Or both. It's just Dutch angles for no reason. It was so distracting. I kept leaning my head while I was watching it like this. Like my brain had to adjust to the Dutch angle, so I had to watch the whole movie like this. Can you imagine watching a whole movie like this? So this is an American, Chinese, Canadian production. It's made by ArcLight Films. I went to their website, which is great, by the way. I love this bright orange background. These are also the guys who produced First Reformed and Dog Eat Dog, another Nick Cage movie we talked about. You know, it's all starting to connect. The pieces are coming together. So they shot the movie in China, they got a bunch of Chinese actors to be in it, and then they got Nicolas Cage to show up for a day, and they shot all of his scenes, and then they got Hayden Christensen to be in the rest of it, and they're like, alright, you're the white guy, just act like the white guy so we can sell this movie in America.
That is my request of you.
Father, no one will follow me.
They will, because you will be king.
Why is everyone speaking English? Okay, so this movie's bad, obviously. It doesn't have a lot of Nick Cage in it. There are some good Nick Cage moments.
You want my blood? You want my blood?
Hey, Nick, we don't have any moves for you to do, so you're just gonna improvise, and we'll just shake the camera and cut quickly, and it'll look fine. There's this badass battle toward the end, where Nick Cage has to fight off this entire army, and you'd think that'd be a challenge for him, but nah. Not for Nick Cage, dude. He just runs at him like, ah! So this is a film called Mom and Dad. The plot of Mom and Dad is that some virus breaks out that makes parents want to kill their kids. Only their kids, not other people's kids. So Selma Blair and Nicolas Cage team up to kill their children. There's also another fantastic scene where Nick Cage's parents try to kill him.
Mom, Dad, listen.
The film is directed by Brian Taylor, one of the guys who directed Crank 1 and 2, which are the best movies ever made. And now one of them brings us Mom and Dad. And I like this movie a lot, actually. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's going to make you cry or anything. Not like National Treasure 2, which just always makes me tear up. I thought the opening credits were great. They're clearly an homage to movies from the 70s and 60s. I like how Brian Taylor shoots violence in this movie. He has like these weird techno sounds going on in the background, and it's a lot of cutting and shaky cam, but there's weight to it. I guess it's the sound design that helps with that too. It looks so brutal, and it looks like it hurt a lot. There's this scene where Nick Cage falls down. Like, holy shit! That looked like it hurt! Selma Blair does a great job. The kids are pretty good. The characters had chemistry. The interactions between the parents and the kids felt very genuine within the context of this movie's over-the-top universe. It didn't feel like a bunch of actors just reciting lines, but I like the characters, and I like Nicolas Cage's character in this. This washed-up, middle-aged man whose best years are behind him, and he thought he would be so much more when he was younger, but now he's just a mediocre dad. I like that dynamic, and that's ultimately the point of the movie. These parents are just frustrated living an average life. So they just take it out on their kids. Of course, there's literally a virus that's making them kill their kids. But on a more thematic level, it's a movie about parents wanting to tear down their family life. Their kids, their work, that same structure they've become accustomed to. I think that's really well done. There's some really good Nick Cage moments in here. Nick Cage is great in this, not in the he's actually good. way.
But if you ever touch that car again, I'll fucking kill you.
But in a completely over-the-top way.
Motherfuckers! You're going to open this motherfucking door!
He just has these little nuances in his performances I love. What was that? And if you want to watch Nick Cage build a pool table, this is the movie for you. And also, if you want to see Nick Cage destroy a pool table, this is the movie for you.
Oh yeah! You put your right foot in, you take your right foot out, you do the hokey pokey and you fucking work it all out!
He gives a very emotional performance. Lots of crying, lots of screaming.
Build a fucking family room!
Lots of anger.
Okay, mister, I'll leave the dinner in the fridge.
Fuck you. Yeah, okay, that's great.
So yeah, Mom and Dad, actually pretty good movie. Samuel the Snake here gives it a 3 out of 5.
Best to enact as if you know what you're saying, but really you know nothing. You thing up the struggles of men, but when you find out the horrors that await you one day, I'm standing by the side laughing. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha.
Now, we're up to Nic-Cage-Athon 2, and I haven't shown you guys Classic Cage. If you had just seen Nic-Cage-Athon 1 and 2 up to this point, you'd be like, what's the big deal with Nick Cage? Yeah, so what, he fought in World War II. So what, he was in Desert Storm. So what, he has the Purple Heart. What's special about this guy? Well, to tell you what's so special about him, we're gonna have to go back to a film called Vampire's Kiss. You know those Nicolas Cage compilations where it's just him being crazy? 50% of these montages are made up of scenes from Vampire's Kiss.
How could somebody misfile something? What could be easier? It's all alphabetical. You just put it in the right file, according to alphabetical order. You know, A, B, C, D, E, F, G,
Peter.
H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P,
Peter.
Q, R, S, T, U, V, W, X, Y, Z. Huh? That's all you have to do.
Very good. You know your alphabet.
I never misspelled anything. Not once, not one time.
Is of course this classic meme.
I couldn't think of a more horrible job if I wanted to. And you have to do it. You have to, or I'll fire you. Do you understand?
This is just a really brave performance. And I mean that sincerely. This guy puts himself out there in this movie. He goes from a completely, well, not a completely normal guy, to a completely disturbed nut job running across the street with a wooden stake covered in blood, screaming, "I'm a vampire, kill me."
I'm a vampire. Kill me. Kill me.
You get to see Nick Cage fight off a bat on a string. You get to see Nick Cage torture his secretary for absolutely no reason. And it starts out pretty tame, but the psychological torture gets more and more aggressive as it goes along.
There you are.
What the hell is he doing in here?
I hope this old woman got nominated for an Oscar for this performance.
What the fuck is going on?
In what other movie can you see Nick Cage put plastic vampire teeth in his mouth, then chase a pigeon around a park before putting it in his coat and then eating it? And no Nick Cage performance is complete without a kind of weird accent that sounds like it's a mix of British and American and something else from a country you've never heard of.
You know, I was in Mortal Kombat with a fucking bat. Give me a break.
I don't know what it is, but it's beautiful.
Hey, do I get waited on today or what? I've been sitting here for 15 minutes.
Right away, sir. So this is a legitimately great movie. Nicolas Cage's performance is fantastic.
Holy shit.
The filmmaking, although it's very laid back and not very stylized, it's competent. And I like how lived in and real everything felt. Nothing felt like a set, Everything felt like it took place in the city. I like the cityscape in the background of the psychiatrist office. I like that Nicolas Cage's apartment in the film feels like a real apartment. You can see cars in the street passing by. And I like the topic this movie is exploring. I know it's a dumb movie with Nicolas Cage acting like an idiot. Really what this movie is about is a lonely guy who can't find love. The reason he can't find love is pretty clear. He's a very unlikable guy.
I want to know, really, who did fucking grease him?
The goddamn contract is somewhere in those goddamn fucking files!
So he falls in love with this fictional vampire he creates in his head, because he's a crazy person. The movie dials it up to 11, and it's extremely comical, but it knows it's comical. And I love that even the fake relationships he creates in his head don't pan out, because even in this fictional reality he's created, he's still a dick.
Sharon. God damn it! What did I just say?
I do think Vampire's Kiss is a really good movie, and I highly recommend it. Nick Cage has given better performances, but if you want just a pure Nick Cage meme performance, this has to be the best one. And those are all the movies. We did it. You know what that means. Well, that's it for Nic-Cage-Athon, for now. But I had a good time. I hope you had a good time too. It's a shame we won't be seeing each other for a while. But just remember to do your morning prayers to Nicolas Cage every day. And I'll see you next time. Goodbye. It's the third time I tried that. My head is too big. I don't know what to do anymore. I just want this nightmare to end.
Our vessel is now passing by the Nicolas Cage galaxy. If you are in a cabin on the right side of the vessel, you will have a perfect view. Enjoy 121717.
Wow. Welcome back to Nic-Cage-Athon. So Nic-Cage-Athon is a series where I just go through Nicolas Cage movies because I feel like it.
Trip, flicks.
So did you hear about Nicolas Cage's marriage with this new woman? See, Nick Cage married Patricia Arquette first, then Lisa Marie Presley, the daughter of Elvis Presley. So Nicolas Cage got married to this woman named Erica Corky? He filed for annulment 4 days after they got married. Oh my god, there's a video of them fighting. So this is them fighting on camera. Yeah, see guys, I was here for this. There I am, right there. It looks like they're acting out a scene together, like they're doing a little dance number. According to the annulment documents filed by Cage, the couple were both drinking to the point of intoxication before participating in the wedding ceremony. Due to his intoxication, Cage says he lacked understanding of his actions and reacted on impulse without the ability to recognize or understand the full impact of his actions. She did not tell him about the full nature and extent of her relationship with another person, nor did she disclose her criminal history. Oh my god. Been hitting the mini bars too much, Nick. What's the moral of the story? Instead of forcing a relationship, why don't you wait for the right person to come along? Someone you love and respect. And don't judge them on superficial things like looks. Judge them by the content of their life. So the first film we're going to talk about is Mandy. This movie has a lot of style, and I'm definitely looking forward to what this director will make in the future. So I thought this movie was really good overall. I think it's a little hollow on plot. It's a revenge story, basically. There's this woman named Mandy who Nicolas Cage is madly in love with, and they have a beautiful relationship together. Until one day, Mandy is just spotted on this red road by this Charles Manson-like narcissist. And you know, it's just love at first sight with this guy. So they kidnap her, drug her, he pulls out his schlong, and she laughs at it because he's got a small dick. He's got a small little uncircumcised dick. I like open up the foreskin, and then you get like Nick Cage with the soda. I'm totally off track now, I forgot what I was saying, but the point is they kill her. And then Nicolas Cage goes on a murderous revenge rampage. You get to see Nicolas Cage yell a bunch. You get to see Nicolas Cage get in a chainsaw fight with another giant man. Nicolas Cage is actually good in the movie, like he gives a good performance. And there's a wide variety of tones and emotions he's balancing throughout this entire movie. And he does a phenomenal job, honestly. He goes from scenes of comedy to scenes of intense grief. He's angry, he's happy, he's in love, he's in despair. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in. I love the use of color in this film. And when the world is a beautiful thing and Mandy is alive and he's experiencing love, there's lots of purples and greens rotating around the characters and moving. There's a sense of life to it. The film's color palette becomes way more intense. The reds become redder. There's more contrast in the image. And there's some cinematography in this film that is really striking. It's a beautiful looking movie. The score, which is by Jóhann Jóhannsson, is fantastic. As well as, I really like the King Crimson song that was in this. Its tone is very campy, and it's clearly going after the style of the time period it's set in, like the early 80s. And I see that influence from like campy horror films like Sam Raimi, George Miller. But it was also deeper than that. It aimed to be more than just schlock, or just like a bunch of gore and meaningless violence. And that way it reminded me a lot of some David Lynch films, how he kind of deconstructs that kind of violence and that over-the-top machismo. The film really does that a lot with Jeremiah Sand, who is the antagonist.
And he blessed me with his holy kiss. He said, "You are not separate from all that is. So all that is yours."
Totally delusional, egomaniac. He thinks he's the second coming of Christ, and so he gets whatever he wants. And it's really satisfying to see people like that just get their heads crushed by Nicolas Cage.
Please! Please!
And there's nothing too crazy to suggest it isn't on Earth, aside from the last shot of the movie, which is basically what Mandy was reading about in one of her books.
Under the crimson, primordial sky, surrounded by the jagged rocks, the ancient volcanic mountain.
Mandy has become kind of a cult classic now. When I first saw this film, I was expecting a horror film, and some of the most passionate film fans are horror fans. I think in terms of genre, it's the most passionate group of people, aside from Marvel maybe. I wouldn't say that's passionate, I would just say that's annoying. But my point is, I'm glad it's kind of found success in this demographic, considering how unconventional it is. There isn't even much violence until the very end of the film, and Mandy's death isn't gratuitous in any way. Focusing on Nicolas Cage's reaction is far more effective. The biggest hurdle for me to get over was Nicolas Cage himself, who is of course good when he tries, but at this point in his career, it's very hard for me to take him seriously. I almost put him in kind of the same camp as John Travolta or Bruce Willis.
I'll park a bus up your ass fucking sideways.
But Nic Cage actually has some passion, and he picks projects that are interesting. They don't always work out, but Mandy just happened to be one that did. And when I was able to just let go of my image of Nicolas Cage, I totally believed him in this role. I highly recommend you all see it at some point. I definitely enjoyed it more upon repeated viewings, and I intend on watching it more times in my life to further explore the intricacies and the beauties of this wonderful film. Now, let's talk about a bunch of fucking bullshit. The name of the film is Pay the Ghost. The film is about Nicolas Cage paying a ghost. He's a college professor.
They might be creatures out of northern mythology, or some Celtic lore.
His acting is terrible.
He reaches his courtyard with toil and with dread. The child in his arms finds he motionless, dead.
Holly from Mystery Diners really wants to, bang him.
The father now gallops, with terror half wild.
So Nicolas Cage's character in this movie is one of those guys who spends a little too much time at the office, and it's Halloween, and he wants to go trick-or-treating with his kid, but he can't quite make it because, he's gotta work.
Mom helped me pick it out after we got the pumpkin. Mom said she'd carve it with me, but I wanted to wait for you.
Nicolas Cage is like, okay, son, I'm gonna take you to the carnival, we're gonna have a great time. Of course, 5 minutes there, he loses a fucking kid, the kid goes missing.
Charlie? Charlie? You see where my son went? Charlie! Charlie! Where are you? Charlie!
Why do we have a close-up on this?
Charlie! Charlie! Hey! Charlie! Charlie! My son's hat! Boy that was wearing this hat! My son was wearing this hat! Officer! Officer, this is my son's hat! He's missing!
When did you see him last?
He was right here by the ice cream truck.
Oh no!
Charlie!
Where's Charlie?
I was holding his hand. I looked everywhere.
Charlie!
Charlie!
For an entire year, Nicolas Cage just goes crazy looking for his kid.
Charlie!
Charlie!
Him and his wife, who was played by Laurie from Walking Dead, are grieving about it. I just think back to the last film we were talking about, and that close-up on Nicolas Cage as Mandy was dying. How effective and visceral it was. That's the thing with him. He goes from beautiful, beautiful films like this, where he's acting his ass off and he clearly cares, and then he's just like, fuck it, I'll just be in a bunch of shit.
Oh my God. You keep pointing the finger at me because you haven't found jack shit all year. Well, in 3 days it's Halloween again, and every child will be out, and every predator knows it, and one of them took my son.
His grief is totally unconvincing. Nic Cage acts like a crazy person chasing a bus down the street, and you're supposed to take this seriously like it's an intense moment. It comes across so comical because of his acting.
Charlie! Charlie!
I've never seen Nicolas Cage run this much. He's like Tom Cruise in this movie.
Charlie! Charlie!
There's a scene later on where the ghost of his son comes back and he gives him a little hug.
Do you see it?
See what, Charlie?
At the window.
Jump scare. Don't worry, that's the only jump scare in the movie. Nah, I'm just kidding. There's a jump scare every 5 fucking minutes. Jump scare! Jump scare! Nicolas Cage does some more investigative work. He talks to a bunch of hobos, and they tell him about this phrase, pay the ghost.
What does it mean?
Jump scare!
Time's up.
There's a scene where he interrogates this meth head.
I gotta pay the ghost.
Did your daughter say that?
As if he can get any information out of this guy.
Can we pay the ghost? Always distracted. I can't remember if she's in front of me.
I think they brought in a psychic medium, and that's who this woman is. I don't know, I fell asleep. And when I woke up, this happened.
Oh my god!
Then this movie gets really crazy. Nicolas Cage goes to hell or something, or purgatory, and finds a bunch of ghost children.
Charlie, my son, my boy.
Is it really you, Dad?
We have to stay together.
But to leave purgatory with the kid, you gotta like cross this bridge. Oh no, it's a ghost. What's Nicolas Cage gonna do?
Get behind me.
What was that ADR?
Get behind me.
Get behind me. What the hell is going on? Nicolas Cage gets flung around by this fucking ghost. So if you saw your father in the situation Nicolas Cage is in right now, being flung around by a ghost in hell, what would your reaction be? Yeah, me too. It's so goofy. How's anyone supposed to be scared by this? But don't worry, everything works out. They defeat the ghost somehow, and then Nicolas Cage and Laurie are back with their kid. What was his name again? Sean? And then a CGI crow flies at the screen, and that's the end of the movie. What an embarrassing pile of shit. And that's Pay the Ghost. Thank God. So I was originally going to do another movie directed by Paul Schrader, who directed Dog Eat Dog, which is the Nick Cage film we talked about.
Bogart was the best, the king.
But he also directed First Reformed, and this movie I got right here, bada boom, ready? You thought I was a badass film boy before? A Criterion of Mishima, A Life in 4 Chapters, directed by Paul Schrader. So how about them apples, mother... Paul Schrader directed this other movie with Nicolas Cage called Dying of the Light. Is that what it's called? I totally forgot the name of the movie.
Haven't you heard? The CIA fell from the Berlin Wall and all the president's men can't put it back together again. It's broke.
Overall, it just wasn't worth exploring that much, so I decided to watch another movie called and it's directed by your boy, the man who directed Batman and Robin.
Cool party.
So remember when Joel Schumacher was adapting Batman, a very dark character, and he was all like, they're called comic books, not drama books.
Take some ice.
So I'm gonna make it all colorful and fun. Well, Joel Schumacher does the same thing with this film, except with kidnapping.
And your little girl, we will come back for your little fucking girl. And she doesn't deserve to die, does she?
It's just entertainment. That's just fun. The plot of the movie is Nicole Kidman and Nicolas Cage are married, and they have a daughter who sneaks out of the house. A bunch of robbers come in because they want some money in a safe. Nicolas Cage doesn't give them the money. He keeps coming up with excuses not to give them money. Meanwhile, Nicole Kidman and one of the robbers have like a little romance going on.
You knew all along about my baby brother and your wife.
One of the burglars knew Nicole Kidman from when he was scouting out the place to rob it, and he tries to have like a little sexual fling with her. She says no, I'm loyal to my sexy husband, Nicolas Cage. you know, Nicole Kidman. So while all this is going on with them, their daughter is out at a party with Emily Mead. But then she leaves the party and goes home, and they just capture her. So what was the point of that? It feels very padded out in that way. You think it's just a simple robbery, but no, Nicolas Cage doesn't have money. Nicole Kidman's having an affair with this guy. These people are having some conflict, so they're always fighting each other. It's so repetitive and stupid. None of the characters behave in a realistic way. And no, she doesn't run back up the stairs. She runs toward him and past him. One of the most nonsensical scenes in the movie has to be this one. One of the robbers has a girlfriend who just tags along or something, and the daughter is driving her somewhere until the girlfriend decides she's gonna have a nervous breakdown and points her gun at the driver. Boom! Boom! And earlier in the movie, when they were heading to the party, they established that this road has like a turn that's very dangerous or something. And then at this moment, when this crazy bitch is yelling at her, she's like, oh, I can just ram right into that pole from earlier.
And I'm gonna blow that smug, superior look off your fucking face. Because you can't do shit, can you? You can't do shit, can you?
Yeah, she just unbuckled her seatbelt real quick while she was driving 100 miles an hour into a pole. And I'm supposed to believe that she survived the accident, but she didn't. Well, of course, she didn't have a seatbelt on. The film certainly doesn't feel like it cost $35 million to make, but it did, and it bombed horribly. I don't like the way it's lit. I don't like the tone of it. It very much has the tone of just a bland Hollywood thriller. It's not thrilling or disturbing in any way. Is it supposed to be funny? Because that's the only thing I got out of it. I just laughed a bunch.
You sure she's worth it, Kyle? $1 million! Yes, that's right, kid! You did it! You hit the mother load! You saw me sign for $1 million with your own eyes! And it's right there, just inches away! All you have to do is just let my wife go! And then come on down and grab...
yelling and screaming, it's so dramatic.
If it's a kidney you want to take mine, ass fuck! No! No!
If you want to watch a good version of this movie, just watch Panic Room. Anyway, those are our Nick Cage movies. You know what that means, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the show. Take care. And remember... Flint!